You can talk about Southwest Detroit without mentioning the amazing culture, history, diversity, this community, from the arts to business to restaurants. The neighborhood is a true melting pot. Let's take a quick tour.
We're driving down Bagley, which this is what's remaining of a commercial strip that existed all the way from what at that time was downtown Times Square. It went all the way down Bagley, all the way to almost Grand Boulevard. This is what's left of that economic strip that was the heyday in the 50s, early 60s, all the way to almost Grand Boulevard. Two expressways kind of broke it up, John C. Lodge, and later on in the mid-60s, the Jeffries. You see that tunnel right there? Right there. That's a train tunnel to Canada. I used to see undocumented white folks come across from Canada from there. Yeah, when I was a little kid. This is the oldest neighborhood in the city of Detroit. It's real interesting. Corktown is a neighborhood that real estate prices are jumping off the hook. A lot of professionals and even more than professional, well-to-do individuals live here. There's fancy restaurants like Mudgee's and all of that. But when I was growing up, it was definitely a very poor neighborhood. Used to play handball against this building right here. It was a glove factory. You can see in the corner over there, Michigan and Trumbull. Left side is what's left of the old Tiger Stadium.
One of the things that's really interesting that a lot of people don't know is that Southwest, as we know it, got its start from Corktown.
Now we're getting close to Grand Boulevard, and for many people, this is kind of the start of the broader definition of Southwest Detroit. On the left-hand side is where the Cadillac plant held reign and was king for a long time. There were three plants that during the heyday of the automobile industry anchored Southwest Detroit. It was Fleetwood, Fisher, and Cadillac. We're driving through what's increasingly becoming a Yemeni community. Folks from Yemen, part of the Arab American world, have settled in this neighborhood and also Southeast Dearborn.
The store we just passed is an Arab and Mexican store. You're not going to see that in a lot of places.
No.
Arab Mexican store.
Passing through that overpass, we're essentially in an African American community. Schaefer, a lot of folks would have called this the original Southwest Detroit back in the day. The old name for the neighborhood used to be Visker Road. This was the home to a very well-established, stabled, working class and middle class African American community. Verner on the weekends, well, any time of the week is a hopping place. Certain times of the day, certain parts of Verner, it's faster to walk from one block to another.
So Verner is our Woodward.
And a little bit more crowded. And murals are a very important part of the cultural fabric. Southwest Detroit, they got a variety of food. You got Dominican, Puerto Rican, Mexican,
Honduran.
I mean, it's just, the list goes on.
Here we are at Clark Park.
It's kind of a spiritual center for the community. This park was actually closed by the city early 1990s. And a group of community activists formed the Clark Park Coalition. And over the years, made sure that it was well maintained, and became a star within the Detroit Parks and Rec system.
Okay, as you can see from the video, this is quite the interesting community. My next guests are closely connected to Southwest Detroit. Steve Tabachman is director of Global Detroit, community activist Hanan Ali Yahya, Angela Reyes from the Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation, and Wanda Lowe Anderson, a resident in the 48217 zip code. Welcome all of you to American Black Journal. Steve, I'll start with you. Your personal story is one of my favorites. You lived here, moved away, and then moved back to Southwest Detroit. Like, it has that much pull on you.
Over Indian Village, so I know I have some friends from Indian Village in the audience, but there's more culture, diversity, action, great neighbors, people who are passionate, great food, great music, and it's just a wonderful place to live.
Yeah.
With all the challenges that you guys have been talking about, you know, immigration, those are our neighbors families who are being ripped apart, and some of our families, the environmental justice issues, but it is still, I think, the best place to live in all of Michigan.
Your work at Global Detroit is really focused on leveraging the great diversity that we have in places like Southwest, increasing that diversity through immigration to make the community stronger. I say all the time that if you drive down Verner, for instance, at 3 p.m. or Michigan Avenue at 3 p.m., it looks really different than the rest of the city in terms of the business density, the activity, all of these things that we want Detroit to look like. We've got that going on down here.
We have traffic, we have grocery stores, we have restaurants, we have live entertainment, we have everything that you want in a city. We have probably some of the most walkable communities in the whole city, and there are a lot of reasons for that, great nonprofits, but immigration is really the driver for Southwest Detroit's success. And in 2000, the only growing census tracts in this city were in Southwest Detroit.
We're in Southwest, yeah. Hanan, talk about the connection here for Arab and Muslim Americans. What attracted them to this area, and why have they sort of stayed as long as they have? Just
Absolutely,
right
yeah. My family story is a perfect example to reflect that kind of transformation in that process. My father moved to Southwest in the 1970s and used to work on cargo ships, and then later on started working at Ford. And so we have a lot of families that moved into Southwest Detroit to work at local industries, and even over time start their own businesses, as we've seen in the video.
Yeah.
And predominantly the community that is major in this community is the Yemeni American community.
Yes.
And I am Yemeni American, and so we constitute a big portion of Southwest Detroit.
Yeah, and you find it a welcoming part of the city.
Absolutely, I would argue it's my favorite. It's the most welcoming, and it's the most culturally and racially diverse part of the city.
Yeah. Angela, you and I have talked many times about the long history of Latino presence here and the struggles and the challenges there. But I think anyone who visits sees how vibrant that community is, that life is here, and that life is shaped so much by Latino culture and history here in Southwest.
Yeah, this community it grows roots, and people kind of stay here for generations. My family's lived in Southwest Detroit for 100 years. Yeah. 7 generations, from my great-grandparents to now my great-grandchildren who live here in Southwest Detroit. And one of the things a lot of people don't realize is that most Latino communities in the country are real separated. So you have the Mexicans that live over here, the Puerto Ricans live over there, the Salvadorans live over there. In Southwest Detroit, we all are mixed in together. We have a lot of Mexicans and people that are mixed with different nationalities together, plus you add the other diversities of having the Arab community, the African American community. We have the largest Native American community in the state here in Southwest Detroit as well too. So you mix in all of those rich, diverse cultures and food. I think we get the best of everything. You can go listen to salsa one night, hip hop another night. You have such a country music another night. I mean, it's really pretty diverse.
Yeah, it feels. I was saying, just like I was saying to Steve, it feels more like a city down here. If you've lived in other cities, it feels more like that than it does in other parts of Detroit.
Southwest Detroit is kind of like a small town in many ways, and I think some of it is because we were kind of isolated from the rest of the region and the city for a long time. Nobody really even knew there was a Latino community in Detroit, only very recently. So a lot of people didn't come in, a lot of people didn't leave out. And even geographically, how Southwest Detroit is, people wouldn't get off of 75 to come in this area unless they went to some of the restaurants on Bagley, which I remember when they didn't even do that. When my kids were little, I remember walking to one of the stores there, and people just started coming as tourists and taking pictures of me and my kids as if we were, it was a tourist attraction. Right. So, it hasn't been that long. So, I think in the process of that, because we were so isolated, we knew no one was coming to save us. Yeah. So we developed a lot of our own strengths. I think it's one of the reasons why we have so many nonprofits in this community. Yeah. Why we have so many cultural things. You can buy anything that you need. You can buy here in Southwest Detroit.
Yeah. I want to talk some about 48217 because we did talk about the tremendous environmental challenge there. But I know that the people who live there really cherish their homes. They really cherish their neighborhood, and I want to give you a chance to talk about why that's true.
Well, the 48217 community is very diverse, very diverse. We have African Americans, Asians, Hispanic. It's just a very close-knit community and high advocacy, high voter turnout. The police chief identified it as one of the lowest crime areas in the city.
Right.
We have high home ownership, well-maintained homes. There is some areas, of course, that is blighted, but predominantly it's well-maintained. We have, most major freeways are accessible. Most prominent hospitals are out there. We have the School of Mark Twain Scholars, and it's just a nice community.
Yeah, it's not what people on the outside always think it is.
No, it's not.
Okay, that's our program for today. Thanks for joining us for this special community conversation. Be sure to check out more videos, behind-the-scenes photos, and more important resources at AmericanBlackJournal.org. Thank you to the Detroit Hispanic Development Corporation for being our host, and thanks to our audience. We'll see you next time.